Hey, welcome to part 3, number 30, Son of Frankenstein. My favorite out of all the Universal Frankenstein movies. This movie doesn't depend on the monster, but on Bela Lugosi as Igor. Oh, and it's spelled with a Y, not an I. You'll remember him as the gypsy from The Wolfman. Igor single-handedly carries the movie and is the true monster of the movie. In my opinion, this is Bela's best role. Well, now to describe the plot. Wolf Frankenstein, played by Basil Rathbone, moves back to the village where the monster ran amok and killed people. The people of the village treat him with hatred and don't talk to him. The only person who does talk to him is a police inspector, played by Lionel Atwill, who had his arm torn off by the monster when he was a kid. This is another great character in the movie. That is just great to watch. It's even cooler when he plays darts. If you're not familiar with the Universal Frankenstein series, then check it out. Number 29. The Elephant Man. A young Anthony Hopkins plays a doctor who discovers a man with basically tumors growing all over him, played by John Hurt, who a year earlier had an alien burst out of his chest. Anyway, he is taken to a hospital where he hopes they can cure him of his horrible disfigurements. There, he's taken advantage of by the night janitor who shows him to public just for a few extra bucks. From there, he's also nicknamed the Elephant Man because when he stands sideways, his arm looks like a trunk and his head looks like an elephant ear. The best part of this movie is the cinematography. Freddie Francis does a phenomenal job of moving the camera to create a nightmarish setting. I find myself always staring into it, getting lost in the visuals. Some may not like David Lynch's style. Even without them, it still holds up. Who knows, after seeing this, maybe you'll have nightmares like this. Number 28. Notorious. In my opinion, this is one of the most underrated Hitchcock films ever. The plot involves Cary Grant as an American agent who asks Ingrid Bergman, who is the daughter of a convicted Nazi spy, to infiltrate an organization of Nazis who have been relocated in Brazil. Grant tells her to take any risks necessary to spy on them. She goes as far as to marry one of her father's friends, played by Claude Rains. The suspense in this film is no different from other Hitchcock films, but the real thrill of watching this movie is the camera. It becomes a character at times. My favorite shot is when the camera shows a party going on. The camera zooms in on Bergman's hand, which is holding a key. There are too many other scenes to point out, but another thing I like is Cary Grant. He is great. It's no wonder everyone loves this guy. The same reason you like him in North by Northwest is the same reason you love him in Notorious. Number 27. The Mummy. I don't know why, but my favorite movie monster is The Mummy. This is one of the best remakes by Hammer. Hammer made gothic horror films in the 50s and 60s, but switched to exploitation films in the 70s. They remade most of the famous Universal classics like Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy, and Phantom of the Opera. Anyway, the plot is nothing special. Peter Cushing plays a man who is an archaeologist. He, his father, and his uncle discover the secret resting place of Princess Ananka's tomb. There is a curse that says all who open will suffer horrible deaths. Years later, the mummy who guarded the tomb is after all three of them and kills them one by one. The Mummy is played by Christopher Lee, one of the last surviving classic horror actors, the others being Rico Browning, who was in The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the man who was in the original Godzilla suit back in 1954. Anyway, this Mummy movie provides a more gory background to the story. It also provides more suspense to the mummy hunting down its victims. The color is amazing for 1959. I can't help but look at the sets. You want a good mummy movie? Here it is. Number 26. The Best Years of Our Lives. William Wyler's study of returning heroes from World War II is a great achievement in storytelling. The film shows three men returning home after the war. Each man shows a different possibility of what life was like for veterans returning home. One man, played by Frederick March, is scared from the horrors he saw in war, and his family can't believe he's the same man. Another man, played by Dana Andrews, arrives home only to find that his life has fallen apart. His girlfriend doesn't really like him anymore, he's demoted from his original job, and he's basically living in a shithole. The last man had his hands burned off in the war. Now he has hooks for his hands. William Wyler chose to cast a real war veteran who had his hands burned off in the war. For the Academy Awards that year, he won 2 Oscars. But sadly, later in life he became so poor he had to sell both his Oscars. The movie does a great job showing the gradual change of the characters' personalities. You connect with them easily and find yourself wishing you knew one of them in real life. Number 25, Mighty Joe Young. This is the first movie in which Ray Harryhausen animated a creature on film. Others may think his best is Clash of the Titans or Jason and the Argonauts, but I love the story in this. It's about a girl named Jill who buys a baby gorilla at age 8 or something like that. Years later, he grows up into the big ape that he is. He is approached by a businessman by the name of Max O'Hara, played by Robert Armstrong, who played Carl Denham in King Kong. That should come as no surprise, because this movie was made by the people that made King Kong, Merian C. Cooper and Ernest B. Shotek. Anyway, for Harryhausen's first film that he animated for, it's pretty good. The way it swings its arms makes me think of a real ape. In fact, Harryhausen ate carrots, celery, and bananas while animating so that he could think more like an ape. But the best scene is when Joe destroys the nightclub. The composition shots are done so well, and this is the 40s, so you can only imagine how cool it must have been back then. You may be wondering why I chose this movie over King Kong. Well, I didn't. Number 24, Strangers on a Train. When people think of Alfred Hitchcock, this is one of the movies that usually comes to mind. It's about a tennis player, played by Farley Granger, and an insane rich kid, played by Robert Walker, who meet on a train. Granger talks about how he hates his wife, and Walker talks about how he hates his dad. So Walker proposes that they kill each person that they hate. Basically, they swap murders. Well, Walker kills Granger's wife and tells Granger that if he doesn't kill his dad, he's going to tell the authorities that he told him to kill her. From there, it's just a game of cat and mouse. Walker stalks Granger, and the police suspect Granger killed his wife. Patricia Hitchcock's in there. All kinds of complicated stuff happens. But that's why everyone loves it. Number 23, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Often people ask me what was the first old movie I saw. Well, this is it. This movie affects me personally, because if I didn't like this movie, I'd be a completely different person. Well, Bud Abbott plays Chick, and Lou Costello plays Wilbur. They're delivery men who are delivering the body of Frankenstein's monster and Dracula to a museum. When they arrive, they wake up and leave. The owner thinks that Chick and Wilbur stole them, and they are on the run from the police. Then they bump into the Wolfmen. Yes, they not only meet Frankenstein's monster, but Dracula and the Wolfman. I guess Abbott and Costello Meet Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein's monster wasn't a catchy title. I enjoyed this movie with growth. As a little kid, I laughed at all the slapstick comedy, but now I laugh at all the smart, witty dialogue. Honestly, I don't think it's laugh out loud funny, but every time I watch it, I remember when I was 3 years old, watching and wondering if a bat would fly in through my window. Number 22, Inherit the Wind. Another Stanley Kramer classic tackling a topic no one dared to touch. It's about the Scopes monkey trial. For those of you that don't know what that is, it was a trial about a school teacher tried for teaching evolution in schools back in the 1920s. Spencer Tracy plays the man defending the teacher, and Frederick March plays the prosecutor. Both are fantastic. I think these are both their best roles. Spencer Tracy's forceful attitude, along with March's ignorant persona, is great to watch explode on the screen. The movie is dialogue heavy, and I think it's more interesting to watch if you know a lot about it before you watch the movie. I will say that my favorite scene is when Spencer Tracy finds out the verdict is going to be broadcast on the radio. Tracy keeps swearing into the microphone, and the operator keeps telling him to not swear. It's a really interesting movie to watch and one of the best court dramas ever. Number 21, 12 Angry Men. In my opinion, this is Henry Fonda's best movie ever. It's about a jury deciding to convict a boy of killing his father. 11 of the men find him guilty, but one finds him innocent. From there, they examine the clues more closely and discover that he may not be guilty after all. In the beginning of the movie, we don't know any of their names. At the end of the movie, we only learn two of the men's names. The most interesting part about this is that all but 3 minutes of the movie was shot in one room. I guess that's what I like most about this picture, is that it keeps everything interesting without leaving that one room. Another thing is Henry Fonda's performance. He does such a good job convincing the others that I got started to get convinced myself. It just brings up the question, maybe we have to think twice before we make assumptions. Well, that's it for now. Tune in next time for part 4.